Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Fraud Watch Friday for November 2022. I'm Ed Michaels, and I'm your Fraud Watch volunteer and host of this broadcast. Um, Things are looking a little different today. I have on my veterans cap because this show is going to um, concentrate on veteran fraud and veterans issues. So hang in there. I'm sure even if you're not a veteran, there are things in here that can be applicable and worthwhile for you to hear as well, because truthfully, the scams that are played on veterans are the same type of scams that are played on everybody. Um, but first, we might talk a little bit about veterans. Um, if you don't know, only about 7% of all current living Americans have served in the armed forces in any capacity or are currently serving. That means that we're one of the smallest active minorities in the United States. Yet, veterans are disproportionately targeted by fraud and scam actions, and we might wonder why. Well, personally, I think it's because veterans tend to be giving people. We're used to being volunteers. We're used to service. We have a trust in our comrade in arms. And if someone is portraying themselves as a veteran or doing something for veterans or anything that's like that, we tend to be a little bit more susceptible, I think, than perhaps we might be if we were part of the general population. Secondly, why go after veterans? Well, the same reason they go after everybody. There are retirement benefits, there are health care benefits, there are housing benefits, there are all kinds of things that are floating out there to be of assistance to veterans. And let's face it, where there's money around, there are people who are willing to talk fast and work little in order to access it. That said, I'm going to look at a couple of scams that run fairly frequently, or one that runs fairly frequently, and one that is new in the news in this broadcast. The first one is what is called a deployment scam. And here's how this thing works. It shows up, and I've seen this on several veterans websites, broadcast boards, different things where veterans communicate with each other. And it usually comes out as someone who is on active duty, and they claim that they are going to be going on deployment within usually 48 to 72 hours. So they're in kind of a crisis situation, and they say, look, it just occurs to me that I have this very expensive automobile, this vintage Corvette that I'm not going to be able to house while I'm gone. And I don't know how I'm going to keep it up. I don't know where I'm going to put it. And as much as it kills me, I'm going to need to get rid of it. And I need to get rid of it fast before I go overseas. Plus, it would really help if I had the money real quick to help out my mom, because she's going to need some money when I'm not around here to help her out with a lot of different things. So what I want to do here is I really want this car to go to someone who's going to appreciate it. So I'm getting on this website to talk to my fellow veterans and say, hey, look, if you're willing to give me $20,000 or the best offer, I will sell this car to you. But we need to make it quick. We need to make it a fast transaction. Here attached are all the pictures of it. You can see it's in great shape. Here's a picture of the registration, but I have taken the VIN number out and my name out because you never know who's out there, right? So here's the information. If you're interested, get a hold of me offline and we can talk about this. Well, I've seen these out there, as I said, and then I've also seen, showing up a few days later, someone admitting that they were scammed. And matter of fact, in this particular instance that I remember with the Corvette, two guys said they were scammed. They both bought the same car, and those were only the people who admitted it. What happened here? Well, they said they were contacted. The guy said he needed the money fast. To either one said they got a request to have a certified check made out to bearer, overnighted to them, overnight it to the seller, or another one, he wanted electronic transfer, it was possible. So they did that through Western Union. Of course, when the payment got there, all the postings about the car disappeared. Now, what can we learn about this? Well, really the way to protect yourself is the same way you'd protect yourself if you were buying a car from the guy down the street. You'd want to see the car itself. You want to make sure it's in good working order, not just trust him to say that it's in beautiful shape. You'd want to take it for a test drive. And you'd want to be careful to make sure that the money was going to the right person. All these things are missing in this scenario, but the excitement of being able to help somebody who's going overseas, a comrade, the excitement of perhaps getting a good deal for yourself, mixing all this stuff in can easily lead to a scam. So what I would say, if these kind of situations show up on the deployment scam like anything else, use the same good common sense you would make if you were buying a car down the street. Remember, this guy could sell a car to one of the established car dealerships. If it's such a good deal, they'll give him cash on the barrelhead. He doesn't have to do a transaction on the internet. So if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Use the same precautions you always would. The second thing I'd like to talk about today is something you may have seen a lot of in the news, and that is Camp Lejeune. Now, if you're not totally familiar with what happened, Camp Lejeune is a Marine base in North Carolina. From 1953 to 1986, there was leakage in storage tanks on the base that put benzene and a lot of other dangerous chemicals into the drinking water of the base. Over 1 million Marines and their families were exposed to these chemicals during the 30-year period that these things were leaking. And it has led to immense health problems for many, many veterans and their families, ranging from cancers to organ failures. The list is really pretty much endless. But if you're interested in finding the depth of the issues or the amount of various chemicals that were into that stream, there are Lejeune websites that have all the pertinent information, and I'd urge you to look them up. A little as we go into the history, there are a lot of lawsuits that came about because of this, as you might imagine. And finally, in 2002, in order to continue to protect the Department of Defense, Congress passed a law allocating money to settle the claims involved for these people who were harmed at Camp Lejeune. The restrictions on being able to make these claims were pretty steep, and they were difficult for a lot of people to make. So the funds weren't really distributed very well for quite a while. But in 2012, President Obama, by executive order, set aside $2 billion for fast-tracking benefits to these people who were harmed at Camp Lejeune. And over the last 10 years, most of the claims have been settled. There are, of course, still some people who perhaps were not able to qualify, who don't feel they were compensated completely, or other issues are involved. And this is where the scams have shown up. There are people showing up on public media. They're running ads. They're on the radio. They're offering ways to help veterans get their Camp Lejeune benefits. They'll say that they will go to bat with the Department of Defense, and they make a lot of different promises. In most cases, these are scams because there's really no way for people who are unofficial advocates to go in and make these kinds of claims against the Department of Defense. What they are doing, however, is harvesting from veterans things like date of birth, social security number, service number, number of children, wedding dates, all the kind of information that we all know, if you follow Fraud Watch, are used to run scams. And once that information is out of the box, no one knows where it goes. So it's generally a good rule of thumb, if you're contacted by any of these different organizations that claim that they're representing veterans, to just stay away. there's a second component about this too, and we need to touch on it briefly. This is the class action suit. And I'm not going to say that class action suits are not legitimate. It's up to you to decide. But here's how they work. A law firm will contact a lot of people who have the same problems, such as being Lejeune survivors. And they will form what they call a class. They will ask a judge to certify a class. And if that is certified as a class, the lawyers will then represent all these people as one and will foot the bill for all the litigation, all the research, all the documentation that has to go into the case. They'll often represent that they are able to, that they'll be able to settle and get more money out for various people in the class. The thing that's important to remember is that in a lot of cases, and I'm not going to say all, but in a lot of cases, the people who benefit the most from a class action suit are the attorneys who are filing the class action. Why? Because they get paid first after the settlement, and what's ever left after their certified billings are paid is then distributed to the rest of the people. And oftentimes, it's just pennies. So, what should you know about people that are trying to put together class action suits on Camp Lejeune? First of all, make sure you check about these firms with the Better Business Bureau. Make sure you check with state bar ethics committees. Make sure you can check with the state attorney general. These are all legitimate people who can tell you if these are law firms that have had legitimate claims, have run legitimate class action suits, and have had no ethics violations. Once you know this, you can make your decisions, an informed decision, just like the TV commercials say. Don't make your decisions about legal representation based on a commercial. Do your hard work. If you do your hard work and you still think these people are legitimate and you want to be part of a class, I would not tell you not to. I just tell you to be very careful on where you provide this information that, as we know, can lead to a lot of other problems in the future. That's pretty much it for today in my speeches on what's going on with veterans and scams. There's a lot more out there. And I would urge you, and I've got a special place I want to direct you to with AARP. I'm going to read this carefully because it's not scrolling at the bottom. You will see at the bottom we're scrolling the Fraud Watch Network website and also the AARP Fraud Watch helpline, and you can pick those up and use those to contact and get more information about this. But I also want to direct you to the site that is http://campaigns, that's CAMPAIGNS, campaigns.aarp.org/vets, VETS, hyphen fraud, FRAUD, hyphen center, CENTER. That's http://campaigns.aarp.org/vets-fraud-center. And at that place, you can download a special book of Fraud Watch guidelines for veterans that will describe these and many other types of frauds and scams that are perpetrated on veterans and how to defend yourself against them. So basically, that's it for me today. All I'm going to say is stand down at ease and check it out. Thanks again. Bye.